a story that you've probably seen on your timeline or on WhatsApp over the last few days. A fantastic story about a police officer who was battling fake news over social media, specifically on WhatsApp. Rumors over WhatsApp have led to at least 6 deaths in the last 2 months alone across different parts of India. Rumors of child lifters attacking a particular village or thieves seem to be some of the most common. Now, the story of Rema Rajeshwari, Superintendent of Police serving in Telangana in this context is truly remarkable. And telling us more about this story is Ian Marlowe of Bloomberg News, who traveled to this village in Telangana and did that story. Thank you so much, Ian, for speaking with us here on Primetime. Tell us about your experience and what you really found there in this village. You start by talking about how local musicians are sending the message across.
Yeah, so this is it's a fascinating issue. I mean, it stretches across India. In this part of Telangana, you know, Rema Rajeshwari herself and other people I spoke to in Hyderabad were sort of stressing that this is an area, a really backward part of the state. It's near the borders with Andhra and Karnataka, and there's very low literacy, sometimes around 50% or lower. A lot of these villagers are illiterate. They work in sort of agriculture. The area is about 90% rural. You've got these people in very remote villages, very sort of cut off. They don't have, you know, they don't know how to read. They don't have digital literacy either. And then you have this spread of cheap smartphones just kind of spreading into some of these villages, and they're getting these forwards, warning of child kidnappers, murderers, and things like that. Yeah. And you know, everyone has WhatsApp. You've seen the messages. They look like they're coming from your friend. They're coming from your family. They're coming from your uncle or something like this. And so a lot of these villagers don't know how to determine, you know, what's real from what's fake.
You know,
and
honestly,
they end up
Ian,
getting extremely anxious.
No,
and we travel.
You're absolutely correct, but I just wanted to come in there and say it's not just the villagers. The number of people who get duped by fake news on WhatsApp are too many to count, and I think across all literacy levels, all social strata, it's very easy to be fooled. Just to, you know, add that point that it's perhaps not just in rural India or a certain class.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I fully agree with you. One of the things that complicates this is just, in some cases, the remoteness of these villages, and some of the things that they're being warned of are particularly gruesome. And you know, some of the videos going around show really graphic things. And when some of these people see these messages, they do get really frightened and immediately forward them on. And we spoke to villagers who were kind of saying, when I see this message, you know, I immediately think I need to warn my friends, warn my family. And so they really do kind of forward it out of a sense of duty, that they're kind of securing their village. But what ends up happening is that they sort of gather together, they discuss it, it becomes even more heated, and then all of a sudden there's a decision basically to patrol the village in a sort of, you know, group of individuals, and they're kind of on edge. They're looking for strangers. In some cases, you know, they see someone they don't recognize, and they just start questioning them. And sometimes, you know, we've all seen stories of this from across India. Sometimes the people end up being, you know, they're just strangers to the village. They themselves might not know how to fully explain what they're doing there. They're there for business. They get frightened, and then all of a sudden there's an attack, and it ends up, you know, getting pretty heated. But in this area, because of some of these education campaigns that Rema Rajeshwari and her police have been doing, there actually hasn't been any you know, full-on attack or any deaths resulting from some of these fake news forwards, and they're actually quite proud of that. And I think it's something. There's been a couple of situations where it's been close. You know, they've had a patrol or a sort of mob that has detained someone, but generally someone who's attended one of her sessions, you know, sort of comes out and says, you know, this is let's phone the police here, and then the police come and then defuse the situation, and those people get let go.
No, that's just fantastic. Just a few weeks ago, you had the horrific story of two tourists from Assam going to Karbi Anglong, and they lost their lives because of fake rumors like this. But, talking about Ms. Rajeshwari and what she has done specifically, she's, of course, SP. She has a large area under her in the way that system works. How has she managed to percolate this message down to the last villager? How is this training actually taking place? And do people now know how to discern between what is fake and what is not, or do they look at every message with a bit of suspicion?
Yeah, it's really interesting, and I mean, with any policy in India, the issue is always how do you get down to the village level? How do you get down to that sort of last mile, where people are working on the land or living in these remote settlements? What she basically did is what she's done before, which was sort of implement a community policing model, which is basically taking constables in these remote police stations and basically assigning 2 or 3 villages to each constable. So every week that police officer has to go visit the village, talk to villagers, see what's the issue with them, talk to them about what's wrong, what's right, what are they worried about, and that kind of thing. And so it was actually on one of these trips that the constable, found this village. And in this part of Telangana, she was telling me, everyone sort of drags their beds outside and sleeps outside at night. And he came to this village, and everyone was inside in the evening, petrified of going outside. And it was because of one of these messages. So he alerted his superior, that made its way up to her. And then she thought, okay, well, this is something that we have to start addressing. And so even though the constables were already going out to the villages talking about other issues, say like child marriage, child labor, she said, well, let's add fake news to this. She gathered all her officers together, gave them a sort of day-long training session on what these videos were, why they're fake, how to tell villagers that they're fake. And some of them were from Bangladesh, Sri Lanka. She said some of them were even from South America. So she's saying these aren't even from Telangana, they're not from Andhra, they are not even from India. These are full-on videos coming from outside India. They have nothing to do with Indians. And once her officers understood that, they got down to the village level and started talking to people about it. And to try and get people engaged and to gather them around, they ended up deploying a lot of traditional musicians. So they ended up getting drummers. The drummers themselves and folk singers would sing and cry out about some of these issues. And we heard them when we went down to one of these rallies. And it's kind of interesting. I mean, they're singing, people are coming from Rajasthan and Bihar, and people are traveling for business. This is the democracy. It's sort of a very, it's sort of an interesting way of getting the message out there. But the people actually end up believing it. The funny thing about it in the end is that people still are afraid of these videos and messages, even if they're, even if the police have told them they're fake. We spoke to someone who says, I know they're fake, but I still have fear in my heart. And it's a hard thing to knock. I mean, it's, at the end of the day, some of the things that these are showing are objectively frightening.
Yeah. No, like I said, the amount of fake stuff out there and the number of people who get fooled by it, or everyone, I think, at some point has seen something and is not too sure whether it's right or wrong. If it's something that could harm you or your own people, you'd tend to err on the side of caution. But thanks so much, Ian, for sharing that wonderful story and your experience of covering it. Ian Marlowe of Bloomberg News there. But we must talk to the hero of the story, so to speak, Rema Rajeshwari, Superintendent of Police, who is working to, really stop the spread of bogus WhatsApp messages. She's joining us now on the phone line. Thank you so much, ma'am, for speaking with us here at Bloomberg Quint.
Thank you so much for having me over.
Do tell us about how you thought of this idea, why you thought it was important in the first place.
This was around end of March when we first came to know about these videos being circulated in local villages. And March is very hot in this region, and people usually sleep outside their houses, and it's a pretty common sight if you go to any part of the any part of the district. And some of the village police officers who went to interact with the villagers came back and told me that people are getting, panicky, and they are not willing to sleep outside their houses, and they are not stepping out of the houses. And some of the villagers, especially the able-bodied men, they are forming themselves into groups, and they are wielding lathis, and they are doing night patrolling without even informing the police officers. And this was a red flag for us, and that's when we realized that this issue has the potential to escalate into something bigger, and a bigger security concern for us. And that's how we started. That's when we decided to start the campaign to go to every village in the district to educate them about the authenticity of all these videos which were being circulated.
So, give us an idea of the scale, ma'am. How many villages are under your watch, and how did you get, your policemen and your force to, get them trained to actually bring this message across? Also, the use and very innovative use of local musicians in each village to send this message across.
Right. So in the first week of April, when we started a very well thought out campaign to go to each village and educate the villagers about the misinformation that was being spread, we realized that there is a challenge. Number one, my own officers needed training. So the immediate thing that we did was to conduct a huge training session for all these village police officers, and we showed them the videos, we showed them the kind of images that were being circulated and the kind of voice messages that were going viral across WhatsApp groups in the district. That was number one. Number two, like you rightly said, sending out messages through the local WhatsApp groups, asking them not to believe in these rumors, and sending out village police officers to the villages, appealing to them not to take law into their hands, wasn't working very well in the beginning. So we wanted to do something which will be more appealing to them. They'll be able to identify with the message, and they'll be able to connect better with that. So that's how we ended up using the local musicians. And I already had a cultural troupe. I have a team of trained police officers who can sing, dance, and do ballet. So we requested this local artist group to write songs for us. So they came up with songs which will educate them about the impact of fake social media rumors and what's going to happen if they keep spreading these messages. So that's how it started.
Wow, that's truly innovative policing. One really honest question, Ms. Rajeshwari. How to discern a fake WhatsApp message from a real one? And it's on, I was just speaking with a reporter who did the story, Ian Marlowe, and I was telling him the same thing, that it's not just in villages. It's very easy for anyone to be fooled by scary WhatsApp messages. So what do you tell your policemen? What do they tell the villagers? How do you make sure that what you're seeing is fake, or is it real? How do you discern?
Right. So I'll answer your question in two parts. And the first, a part is about how we respond to their concerns immediately. Because we've been telling these people for the last 3 months not to believe in these rumors, but they are still receiving such messages. So luckily for us, now instead of taking law into their hands, these villagers are calling us up and they're forwarding those videos to us, and they're asking us whether it's true or not. So the first thing that we do is to go deep into the issue, analyze the video, and invariably in all the videos, some of the people who are in the videos, they're not even Indians. There are videos which probably originated from South America or Myanmar or Bangladesh, and the language that is being used is not even Hindi or English. It's a different language. Number one. And number two, about the images, all those graphic images with bloody, people getting killed and, children being chopped off, dismembered. And we showed those pictures to them, and we told them that, see, these are morphed images. And people living in this region who are digitally illiterate, that was something new for them. It was something really new. And when we told them that, they believed in us. They finally got convinced, saying that, yeah, now we can differentiate between a real picture and a morphed picture. number one. Number two, about the lasting solution to, tackle this issue. As I see it, I feel that, we need a three-pronged approach to deal with this issue. Number one, technological. And right now, we don't have a proper regulatory mechanism to deal with the issue. A mechanism which will keep a check on the content being sent across these digital platforms.
Yeah.
And number two, what I call the cognitive issue. So if you look at human behavior, we deal with the criminals and, people having deviant behavior of the society. So we analyze, how these people behave, differently from the, from the normal people. By nature, human beings tend to believe in rumors than in real information. That's a human tendency. And if you look at the way Indians are using WhatsApp, and that explains it completely, that a person, an average man, tends to forward a false message 100 times more than a real message. And we did a little experiment here when I, wanted to tackle this issue. We sent out a formal message through my PRO, appealing to the people not to believe in the WhatsApp messages. And we asked the village police officers to go and check in the village whether this message is being circulated. Unfortunately, it was not. People were not even interested in reading that message. But if you look at a video which is so graphic, where people are getting killed, they spread those messages like wildfire. So the third, then it comes to social issues, because the issue varies from region to region, and this region has always been politically sensitive. And now with the rising number of mob lynching and people getting killed over fake social media rumors, this has become all the more reason for us to, do a lot of preventive policing. So that's what we are doing, but it's a long way to go. The campaign is still going on. We have not stopped it, but for the last 3 weeks, we have not had any incidents over WhatsApp-induced rumors.
That's just fabulous. Just one last point. Now, how are we going to implement this on a larger scale? Have you got any inputs or direction where this experiment of yours could be implemented across other districts in Telangana and, of course, across the country?
Well, in Telangana, my DGP had already given instructions to all the district police chiefs a month ago to conduct awareness sessions across the state. So it is going on in this state. As regards other states, some of my juniors working in Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra, they've called me and they've asked me for the details. They wanted to replicate the model in their states and the region that they work. So I hope that they'll be able to take it up there, because we've seen too many lynching deaths in the last 1 month alone, like the latest being the Assam lynching, and it's terrible. I mean, when you know that this message has the potential to lead to violent death like this, all you can do is to reach out to the community and engage with them and keep on telling them until it goes into the muscle memory of their brains. And now they know that, now they know how to differentiate between real and fake news.
Well, Rema Rajeshwari, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. I hope that your model is implemented on a national scale, and more power to you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So that was SP in Telangana, Rema Rajeshwari, who has been fighting fake WhatsApp messages and trying to reach out to local communities to make sure that these vicious messages don't lead to violence.